Hi, welcome to another episode of Typewriter Tuesday. I've got a special typewriter for you today, one I stumbled across, and it may be one of the best typewriters I've ever purchased. I'm going to share that with you. We're going to look at the Remington Model 5 from 1940. Stay with me, I'll be right back.
It's Typewriter Tuesday. Let's journey into the past to see what writers of old used to use to ply their trade. What kind of mechanical beauty does Al have for us this week?
Well, it is my pleasure to introduce you to this Remington Model 5 portable typewriter. And to my mind, to my eye, it's an absolute beauty. It's one I came across, wasn't looking for, wasn't expecting it, and it turned out to be a much better typewriter and a much better purchase than I imagined that it could be. This is from 1940. 1940, so long time ago, 77 years ago, when this typewriter was manufactured. A lot of things going on in 1940. The world was headed downhill and into World War II. Hitler was already being aggressive. There was wars going on in Europe. On the positive side, Bugs Bunny made his cartoon debut, so that's something to cheer, I suppose. FDR won his third term, which was kind of a precedent. It was a record. 3 consecutive terms, and that was in 1940. The rest of the world is just really going downhill at that time. So it won't be long before typewriter manufacturers will stop making typewriters. As we get into the war efforts, Remington would be one of them, because Remington, of course, is very well known for the weapons that they used to make, hunting weapons, guns, rifles, and they would be pressed into service to making those over making typewriters, and then the military would try to get people to donate typewriters to them. Though some special ones were made for the Navy and the like, but for the most part, that's just a couple of years in the future when typewriter production is going to stop in the United States. Let me tell you a little story about this. I was at one of my favorite hunting grounds, was just looking around, and walked into one of my favorite antique stores, and I looked down on the floor, and there was the case for this typewriter. And it looked like a pretty good case. I noticed there was no price on it. In fact, it wasn't even stacked anywhere. It was just set down in the middle of one of the aisles. So I picked it up, took it to the front, set it down, and said, let's see what's in the box. And when I opened it, I came across this Remington Model 5. And it was very, very clean, both inside and out. It's probably the cleanest typewriter I've ever received. And I was surprised. The funny story behind it is that the guy I was talking to there said, I just bought that for the store 30 minutes ago. The elderly lady came in, and she wanted us to buy a few things from her, so we did. And this was a typewriter that she had, and so I went ahead and bought it. And then he told me the price, and he said, but since I haven't even put a price on it, I'll let you have it for $25 less than that. And there's a sucker born every minute, and I appear to be one of them, except this wasn't a bad deal. It was a great deal. The feet on it are very good. Could use a little bit, especially in the back. They're a little smushed. This happens because most of the weight of a typewriter is in the back. When you get to the standard size, the big size typewriters, they're the ones that suffer the most. Let me give you a quick tour of this. Now, I have done a Model 5 before, two-tone gray, but that was from 1948. They did this model for quite a while. Some of the more interesting things to me are the keys. The keys are metal. When I first looked at it, I assumed they were plastic, but it's enamel over metal, where there used to be glass on some of the older keys, and most of the pre-war typewriters were that way. They don't have the glass. They have the rim, but they painted it black. And it feels on the surface almost like it's plastic, but plastic wasn't in that great a use, at least in typewriters, prior to the end of World War II, with some exception. These are ribbon covers over here, and these are plastic. And they cover the ribbon. Very nifty little things. I was excited to find these in the case because they go missing very easily. The usual touch, as you see in the Model 5, almost every Model 5, you have the touch control. It goes from 1 to 5, and it's the tensioner, as it's sometimes called in the other typewriters, about how hard you have to press. You'll notice also how flat this is. It's very flat across the top, And you've probably already noticed that the type basket doesn't look like a basket at all. It's very, very flat. And the keys have to travel almost 180 degrees. Let me do this over here so you can see it before it hits the platen. Kind of amazing. That's a long way to go, but it nonetheless is really snappy. It's a very good typewriter. It has an elite font, so you get more characters per inch. Very happy with that. The return and line space. I always love it when I have a little hook on it. Very easy to do. You can see over here on this side, paper fingers. One of the interesting things about it is it has no rollers. Some of the paper fingers you see have little rollers up here to keep the paper pressed against the platen. This one doesn't, but they work very well. It's just friction held. I did put a new ribbon in it. Had no problem with what's usually called the vibrator. There's other names for this thing that moves up and down, moves the ribbon up and down. As we go around the side, see we still have this nice little design, but it's all black. Matte finish. We have a smooth band around to break up the bulk of the thing. At some point it's been serviced. That's a typewriter company here in Central California. I doubt it's still around. There aren't, I don't think there's any real typewriter companies in Central California anymore. There may be a couple of office places where they'll fix typewriters, but and it has the usual assortment of things. When I got this, the release, the ratchet release, so that the roller moves freely, was out. This thing had come loose and was sticking out, but it was an easy, very easy fix. We go around the back, you still see there's a nice scale up here. They do a good job with that. The back opens to reveal the margin settings. And these are very easy to move. In fact, this thing required no lubrication. You know, sometimes when you oil a typewriter, you're not doing it any favors because it will gunk up after a while. But some of the old ones, you have to use a little oil to break up the gunk that's in there so you can help get it cleaned up. This one needed no lubrication for anything. So I'm assuming it had been serviced sometime back and just not used very much. Either the platen has been replaced because there's very little scoring on it. Remember, if you've seen some of the earlier ones, you can tell if a typewriter's been used a lot because it has a lot of lines across it, and that's from where the typeface, the slug, has been hitting the paper and into the platen, and it leaves a little mark over a while. It wears them down, and you can tell that it's been used a lot. It's possible the platen has been replaced. It's still very hard, so if it was replaced a long time ago. These have volatile gases that over decades evaporate off and makes the rubber in them very, very hard. But nonetheless, it's still in very, very good shape. Remington is also using, as it did on all of its portables, and I'll try to put a graphic in here to show this, but it's geared. So the strike mechanism is different than most other typewriters. In fact, let me read what they wrote. If you go to the manual, they're very proud of themselves for this, and really I can't blame them because it does work quite well. They wrote in the manual, geared type bar mechanism, and they capitalize that every time they use that phrase. Geared type mechanism is another triumph for Remington engineering, development, and pioneering. It was designed to overcome the inadequacy of old-fashioned type bar mechanism. So there's a subtle sales message there. And if you're using anything but this Remington with the geared message, you're using an inadequate typing mechanism, even though they've worked for decades. But nonetheless, they are right. It is quite an improvement. Thus, beautiful print work, positively aligned, becomes a reality. What they're talking about there is what it looks like on the page. And if you ever typed much on, especially older typewriters, it's hard to get even type. It's the beautiful thing about electric typewriter. They strike the paper at the same strength for every key, so you don't have to worry about your little fingers being weak and barely able to get the key up there, and then your index finger trying to drive the key down through the bottom of the typewriter, so it gets inconsistent. Well, this helps keep it a little more consistent. It doesn't solve the problem like electric did, electric assist and electric typewriters. Then they went on to say gear type mechanism provides absolute control of the type bar from the beginning to the end of the stroke. So, and that's true. It's very straight in the way that it works, resulting in fewer working parts and thus greater strength and longer life. This is very important consideration in portable typewriter, for you are assured clean, perfectly aligned print work. Only Remington portable typewriters boast geared type bar mechanism. So even after you bought the thing, you get a little sales pitch about how wonderful your purchase is. The design is great. Many of the Remington 5s don't have this recessed area where the label is, the marking, the branding on the thing. And sometimes it says Remington ran, sometimes it's just straight across. It depends, because they ran these for quite a while, and there's little variations of them. Go back and look at the other video I did on a Remington Model 5, the two-tone gray. You'll see it looks very much the same, except the deck covers more of the spools. You don't have these things, and it's a little bit larger. But nonetheless, a very, very good typewriter. It's also good to note that it was the favorite of Agatha Christie. Of course, anytime you read about an author who used a typewriter, like in Agatha Christie's day and the like, or Hemingway, for example, you think, well, they had this one typewriter for their whole career. It's not true. She used the Corona 3. There were other typewriters in her writing life. Like Hemingway had 7 different typewriters that we know of, from Royals to Remingtons to Coronas. So that's not unusual. But she did have a Model 5, except it was the British version, which means it had a different name on it. It was called a Remington Victory T. Probably a little older than what I'm showing you here, but up here it would have labeling that said Remington Victory T, T as in the letter. But she, of course, is probably the most famous author, at least of fiction, in the world of fiction. She wrote 66 detective novels, 150 short stories, 20 plays. She has characters that have been used in untold movies and television programs like Hercule Poirot and Tommy and Tuppence and Partners in Crime and some of the others. She's considered probably the best-selling author of all times. It's amazing how many books she sold throughout her life. It's rather remarkable. It is said, and I can't document all of this for you, but it is said that the only books that outsold Agatha Christie in her career has been the Bible and Shakespeare. And Shakespeare has had more time to sell his material, so rather remarkable and dearly beloved. So Agatha Christie used one of these. Great little typewriter. Does have bichrome settings, so you can use red, stencil, or blue, black these days. Now I have just a monochrome ribbon on it because it's what I had available. I did want to replace it. You can change the ribbon direction with here you can wind. You twist that and it moves the ribbon. See a little line over here is moving along. You can do that, and you push it, it changes the direction in which the ribbon moves, and there's the line again. So you can go back and forth between that. It has really everything that you need, including, and you don't see this on other brands of typewriters very much. I can't really think of any other typewriter I have that has this except Remington, is this caret, this insertion mark, which is great for writers. It's a vertical caret. It has the cent mark below it, but it is designed, and you'll see it on the type sample when I plug that in here. It is designed to hit below the line that you're typing, so you can, let's say you leave a letter out, you back up, you hit that, and then you go above the word and you type the letter it's supposed to be in there, indicating you need to insert this E here or an apostrophe here, or whatever it might be. And then when it gets retyped, that gets taken care of. Lovely typewriter. I like the sleek look of it, the roundedness of it. I love the keys. The keys have a great feel. The spacing is very good, very strong, very responsive It is just an excellent, excellent typewriter. And if I had to spend my days typing out my manuscripts instead of working on a computer as I do, I would really give this one a solid look at as being a primary typer for me. Love them, and it was kind of a surprise deal, and I went ahead and bought it, even though I'm just a struggling, starving author. Nonetheless, had to have it, so I bought it. Well, again, this is Alton Gansky. I want to thank you for joining me on this Typewriter Tuesday as we look at this 1940 Remington Model 5 that many writers really have used. Ginsberg used a Model 5 for a while too, but also he used other typewriters, just like most writers do. So once again, thank you so much. Be sure and subscribe, if you would, on the YouTube channel, so you know that when we post these, thumbs up always help. I appreciate you taking the time to spend a little of your day looking at this beautiful typewriter, and maybe getting some joy out of seeing some of this wonderful design work that was going on shortly before World War II comes in and brings a lot of typewriter production to a halt. It's Typewriter Tuesday. I'm Alton Gansky, altongansky.com. Goodbye for now. All righty, we're going to do a little typewriter test here of this Remington Model 5, 1940, and as I've already mentioned, that was one of the good years for Agatha Christie, same year that this typewriter was manufactured, and so in honor of her, let's just do a line or two from her book, Five Little Pigs, a Hercule Poirot novel. Hercule Poirot, look with interest and appreciation at the young woman who was being ushered into the room. There have been nothing distinctive in the letter. We have written have been a year request for an appointment. And there we have it. Some lousy typing. Nonetheless, you can see the action of the type bars.